What's up? This is the Alexander Music, Brandon Alexander, and I'm rocking with IGotSoul.com. Good people.
Can you tell us a story of how you got your break kind of as a producer, and what led to your first major placement, and then what that placement was?
Well, back in 2009, I reconnected with these guys called Sturkin and Rogers, Evan Rogers and Carl Sturkin, SRP. I used to play for their artist back in the day, back in 2006, Xavier. I was a bass player and I've toured, since I was 18, but back in 2009, I reconnected with them and I sent them some tracks, and they liked what I was doing. They had an artist, Hal Linton, and they sent me an acapella, and they wanted me to redo the beat, so I redid it, and they loved it. So then they were talking, we want to get you a publishing deal between us and Universal. So long story short, that started the process. I want to say July 2009, I signed, and my first placement, I did a remix with Ryan Leslie called I Choose You. So that's pretty much how I got started.
Cool. You mentioned Xavier. That's Xavier Cologne?
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah, we're big fans of his. I know he's out. He's from out there in Connecticut. I was reading that you're from the Hartford area as well. Is that how that connection came about, or?
Well, it was crazy because it's interesting because my right after high school, I decided I wasn't going to go to college, and my parents were like, "Well, you got to make this music thing work." So a friend of mine was putting a band together for Xavier, and he's a bass player as well. A friend of mine, big homie Ace Livingston, and he asked me if I wanted to do the gig, and I was like, absolutely. So that's what kind of got my career going as far as just being a professional as far as music. So I went in and I did the gig, and we did a tour, and that just built a relationship and a friendship between me and Xavier, and one thing led to the next. Xavier, I give a lot of credit to because he was my first gig, gave me my first chance, and he's a huge talent that, now is finally getting the recognition that he deserves.
Yep. No, I agree. I definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
All right. So, now I think I mentioned you on Twitter. I was at this Tyrese listening event, last week, and he just gave you a huge shout out, for the work you did on his album, his new album, and he mentioned, you're the next big thing, the next big producer in R&B, which is, a great accolade coming from him. So, he mentioned kind of like an R&B boot camp he put together, when he was doing this new album. Can you kind of talk about that whole scenario?
Absolutely. It was fun. It was fun. It was a time to remember. The way it happened for me, just to sum it up, I was just in LA working on another project with another friend of mine, and I talked to one of the writers, which is one of my writing partners, Aaron Sledge, and he told me that he was coming out, and there was a group of people coming out to work on Tyrese's album. So I was like, man, I'm in LA. So he and Tyrese was like, man, the producer, it just so happens that the song Amazing that I did for Tank, Tyrese loved that song.
Wow.
So Aaron Sledge hit Tyrese, was like, there's a producer, that song is in LA. So then, he connected me to Tyrese, and then that night I went over to Tyrese's house and met him, and I played him some records, and I remember it was a few that stood out. This one I played, and that was it. He was like, all right, you're staying. And long story short, I ended up staying. I didn't leave the house. I ended up staying about 4 weeks.
Wow.
And we did the Over the Apple.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
And I know you have, you did the single Stay, which you just came out with the video for, and then you also did the other song Too Easy, which he also said he's going to shoot a video for. And those songs are like completely different in style. One's like an adult contemporary, one's more of like a commercial club type song. Do you think that shows your versatility as a producer?
Absolutely. I think I like to be able to switch it up, and I think I have the ability to play different instruments. Like I play drums was my first instrument, then I went to bass. Bass is my main instrument, and I play keyboard and a little guitar as well. So I believe I try to use that to my advantage in my production, because a lot of producers, well, not a lot of producers, there's some producers that can't really play and that have to bring other musicians in, and I think that, not to say I'm a one-stop shop, but I think that I can do, whatever it calls for on a record, I can do it on myself. And I have a good vocabulary of music, to where I feel like I could do a soul record, I could do a country record, I could do a pop record, and I could do a hard hip hop record. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Cool. Now talk to me about the work you did on Joe's upcoming album. I know you did the song Dear Joe, which I love, and I think he's going to pick that one as a single. Just talk about how that opportunity came about and what it was like working with him.
Well, first and foremost, Joe is very underrated and one of the best to ever do it. And it was a pleasure to work with him. But I was in Atlanta with the writing team that we formed. Working with Tyrese. Our name is The Officials. And we were in Atlanta just working on some other records back in, I want to say, March. And me and my partner, Aaron Sledge, got a call from our manager and was like, yo, as soon as y'all leave, y'all gonna go to Jersey and work with Joe. So we went out, and me and Aaron, we played Joe a bunch of records. I believe Joe picked like 3 right there, or 2.
Okay.
He picked 2, and we did one from scratch, which is called Time of Your Life. And then after, I did Dear Joe with my cousin, who's a writer, an incredible writer, Big Mike, Mike Christian. We did Dear Joe after, and then they picked that. So that's kind of how that happened. So I ended up with 4 on there.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard a few of them so far. I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of those.
Appreciate it, man.
Have you seen that that type of thing going on with yourself, like any type of competition with other producers to try to get placement on an album, or yeah, talk about that.
Man, I was just talking to my cousin about this the other day. It's not like rip your heart out type of business, but I put things in perspective, and I try to be realistic. Like there are a certain amount of records that come out every year, and let's say there are 13 slots on every album.
Yeah.
There are hundreds, not hundreds, there are a lot of top name producers that are trying to get on those records, and then there are hundreds and thousands of other producers that are just as good trying to get on the record. So you got thousands of people competing for 13 slots. So it's very, very competitive, but if you align yourself with the right people, business-wise, and, the right writers, because at the end of the day, if you don't have a great song over a dope track, you got nothing. So
definitely.
It's very competitive, but if you got the right pieces in place, I mean, you give yourself a chance to win. Yeah. All you need is an opportunity just to, for your song to be heard.
Definitely. Okay. Who else are you currently working with?
Well, right now, pretty much, I've been finishing up on Tyrese. About to start working on some records for Plies. Earlier this year, along with Lil Ronnie, the producer extraordinaire here in Atlanta, we did a couple of records for Mary J. Blige. Okay. She cut one of them. I'm hoping, everything goes well with that. I really believe it's a great record, and it's a good sound. So, and Tank, trying to get on this new Tank record. I think we got some good records.
Okay.
For him.
Cool. Take me back to another song I believe you had a hand in. I looked this up on ASCAP, so I'm not exactly sure, your involvement in it, but the Jaheim song, Other Half, were you involved in that one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, talk about that one.
I was a writer on that song.
Okay.
Went to Jaheim's house, because I go back with Jaheim back to about 2006, 2007, and I toured with Jaheim as a bass player for at least 2-3 years. So, me and him had that relationship. But, when it came time to work on that album, I went down to Jersey, went to the house, and we did a couple of ideas. And that one stuck. Some things got changed in the end, but I'm glad, my work was able to stay and be a part of that record.
Yeah.
Also, big shout out to Ice Cube. I did a record on Ice Cube, which was a single.
Yeah.
Called Drink the Kool-Aid. I don't know how I forgot to mention that, but that was a single, and that was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Well, I mean, since you've been having these placements, having singles, have you been seeing yourself getting more calls to do songs, getting more recognition within the industry? Do you see that type of thing?
Yeah, slowly but surely, like it's a buzz going around, and I'm just trying to show up. My thing is, every time I get a call, an opportunity, I just want to show up and hit it out the park. I want to, be known as somebody who can come in and deliver. So, as the calls come and opportunities and relationships come, I just try to be consistent.
Yeah. Okay. I think I mentioned we speak to a lot of producers, and one thing that always intrigues me is like the beat maker versus producer, type of, styles of doing things. Because I hear from producers these days, a lot of times they just send off the beats to the artist, and the artist, tries it out, see how they sound on the song. Whereas in the past, it was a real producer thing, but they'd be in the studio and everything with the artist while they're doing the song. What side are you on?
I would definitely call myself a producer.
Yeah.
I don't knock a beat maker, but I think the word producer, it goes further than, what the average person thinks. It's more than just making a track. I believe being a producer, if you're the producer of the song, you, as the producer, are leading. So I think, even with the writers and the vocal production, the producer has to, have this influence, and it has to somewhat be a part of your vision. Like, the outcome has to be what you want it to be, and if it doesn't, then you have to do what you got to do to make it that, because that's your name going on, and you want people, you want people to hear what you want them to hear, not, you don't want to send off a record, and by the time it comes out, it sounds totally different than what you anticipated.
Yeah, definitely. No, I see that. And just one last question for you. You mentioned that you've toured with artists. You're a musician. You can play instruments. Do you think that gives you an advantage over some other producers who maybe can't, play instruments? They kind of just generate their beats off their machines and all that. And does it give you a better ear, anything like that? Talk about that.
I think musically, it gives me an advantage because, like, I believe I have a good vocabulary of music and knowledge. But I think on the other side, business-wise, it's a disadvantage because it's hard to get the respect of a manager or A&R or somebody that you may meet with these big artists, because they look at you as a musician, which is not a bad thing, but you work for them as a musician, so it's hard to get the same respect as a Timbaland or Kanye when, you're just the hired, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to get that same respect, but, I think you have to separate yourself to some degree to show them how serious you are, and then I believe things always come full circle. You circle back to them, and then they see what you're doing, and then it lets them know that that you were bigger than just a musician.
Yeah. No. Okay. I see. Actually, I do have one more question for you, and that's do you have like a wish list of artists you'd like to work with in the future?
Man, I would love to work with. I've been trying to work with Chris Brown. I love to work with Chris. I would love to work with Kanye. I love Kanye. A big dream of mine was to work with Mary J. Blige, because I played with her as a musician, and I just always wanted to play with her again, but playing my records. So, Mary J, Jay-Z.
Yeah.
A lot of artists like that. Busta Rhymes.
Okay.
Just artists that I grew up on, and artists that I grew to love. Even Diddy. Diddy is, one of the top for me, because Diddy just has such a big influence on music as a whole. So I would love to be a part of, some music with Diddy. Just a lot of artists like that, because I believe that, these artists have led legendary careers, and I just want to be a part of it. I don't have to have the single. I would love the single, but just to be able to look back, how I look at old records now, and to be able to say I was a part of that career, that's a big deal.
Yeah, cool.